Andrea. First off, I want to applaud Derek for what he's doing. He's putting a lot of time into this. Second of all, I'm kind of taken back that anybody thinks that let's move forward. That was then, this is now. People died alone because we wouldn't let them go see them. People were locked into their homes. I have family members that have cancer from those vaccines, okay? Well, just saying, it was a big deal. It is a big deal. I'll never forget, and I will spend my last breath making sure that it never happens again. And the other thing, the transparency, people are paying attention. We removed the mask mandate a few years ago. The board voted to remove the mask mandate, and I went to pick my granddaughter up at the high school, and she had a mask on her face. And when I questioned, why does she have a mask on? We removed that mask mandate. My answer was, we have our own policy. That better never happen again on my watch. Mr. Harris, you're the one who told me that. We have our different policy. If they're out for 5 days with COVID and come back, even though they test positive, they have to wear it for 5 days. I didn't know that, and a lot of other people never knew that. When the masks were removed, they were removed. It wasn't, oh, we'll remove them, but we have a side policy that nobody knows about. Transparency is a big deal.
Good job, Brenda.
So next on the agenda, we have response to public comments. If any of the board members have anything they would like to respond to.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay, sorry.
You were too quick to take me back.
I know.
Thank you. I just looked up on my phone who was here in 2020, and I believe I am the only person sitting at this table that was here in 2020. So I will attempt to answer some of your questions. But first, I want to respond to Aubrey's comment about the health plan and the health plan that was picked. I can tell you I was on that negotiating team, and there were a number of health plans that we looked at, and that was also part of the union negotiation. We picked a plan that was very different and saved the school district tens of thousands of dollars because the teachers were willing to try something new. We were creative, and as far as I know, it's worked well. So it wasn't just that there was only one plan and we took what they offered. There was an examination of many different plans and many different options and co-pays and on and on and on. So we did do due diligence on that. The music teachers, as far as I know, those positions are still being advertised. We cannot control who decides to accept a position. We cannot control what the local housing market is, whether it be for a teacher or a service worker or a retiree. It potentially will be addressed in the budget, but we can't determine that now. But as to the issues of what was done in 2020 with COVID, I was new to the board. I was elected in March of 2020, just at the cusp of when this started. I will tell you, initially it was for 2 weeks while everybody assessed everything, and we were under order from the Department of Education to leave the kids home. I do remember the testimony that Brenda gave and many others. I was a kind of a lone voice out there. I will tell you, if you just reviewed the minutes it doesn't give a good indication. But I can tell you that Heidi Milbrand of Bristol and I, every meeting questioned what they were proposing, what the strings attached were, what would happen with programs that were added when those programs were set to end, that these programs would not continue forever. Brenda may recall when they wanted to vaccinate the youngest children that we put our foot down. We called a special meeting and did not agree to those children being given vaccines unless their parent was actually present with them, giving that permission. So we did listen. We tried to do what we could, but we were kind of backed into a corner. And when there's 2 votes out of 7, sometimes it's difficult to make change. I can tell you, I personally was ridiculed by many members of the public because they didn't think I feared what could happen to our children. That couldn't have been further than the truth. We got back to school a lot earlier than other districts did. We started cutting back as soon as we could on the mask mandates. We questioned the statistics that the state was giving us and that Newfound was reporting that it wasn't on a timely basis. So we did listen and we did act responsibly. And I can tell you that as far as this member is concerned, we will take the advice of those of you who testified. We will be examining what programs we are still under and if there are strings attached. I know the ESSER funds that we received end the end of September. So we're only a little over 30 days away from that money being gone over in those programs ending. I've requested that we look into any potential strings that were written into those. I know some people are talking about Title IX. I'm not aware of any obligation for this district to abide by a federal ruling on Title IX. We will look into that and answer when we have real facts and figures. But I don't want the people to leave here thinking, well, they didn't listen, they're not going to do anything. So that's my response to you, so you're not left hanging. And so let's hope. And I do agree, that was 4 years ago. We want to move forward. And I know a lot of people were damaged by it. I know a lot of people were impacted by COVID. I don't believe we had any serious known consequences or death in Newfound, but I do know that we've been paying the price with the emotional and with speech and so on from kids wearing those masks. And I think a lot of people are now realizing that a lot of people were lied to and people at the highest levels of government, but we can only go by what we were given information at the time. In retrospect,
We got it.
I think things could have been done differently, and I don't want to get into a debate about this, but I just don't want to leave you hanging. That I think this board will take this seriously, and we will look into if there really are any strings attached. Thank you.
So 30 seconds on each topic. First, Aubrey, you're right to be concerned. Jason, you as well. I think that was a misappropriation of funds out of that fund. I was concerned about that. I expressed it. As far as I'm talking about the tables right now, and I think that an effort could have been made to maybe find an alternate way to resolve what is a real problem. The tables do need to be replaced. I don't think that was the way to do it, but that's how it landed. As far as COVID goes, I wasn't on the board yet. Fran said that, but I'm on the board now, and I have a responsibility to speak to you people about it and to do what I feel is right. We all do. That's part of being on a board, an elected board. So I have a daughter who's in her senior year of high school. So she was at still a very impressionable age. I don't know if any of us weren't, right, for that whole thing. But I remember quite clearly, at first the confusion and maybe a little excitement because you mean I get to stay home and do my homework here, right? I don't have to go to school, right? But then the isolation set in. And I remember it was, if you know the Winslow Homer painting where the young lady is staring at a farmhouse in a field, like she's sitting in a field facing a farmhouse and she's looking, I think it was Homer. But my daughter looked kind of like that out in the front yard, and I said, oh good, she's taking a break from her homework. And then I saw the shoulders heaving, and we all know what that is as parents, and it's kind of heart-wrenching, you know? So then I sat next to her and say a word, and, which I know is unusual for me. And she said, I even miss the kids I hate. Okay, so think about that for a minute. The divisions that existed between the children had been dropped because just that environment was altered, and that did have an impact on kids. It still does. I think most kids have recovered pretty well, but that doesn't make it okay for the kids who haven't. Okay, and that was the responsible. I don't think, I will say, sir, that I don't think anybody committed treason here. I'll just throw that out there. I study the laws for a hobby, and I don't think that happened. But I will acknowledge that the government handled this very poorly. Not necessarily at this level, but at a somewhat higher level. And as elected officials, one of the things I stated when I was running for office, one of the things I believe in very strongly is small local government. And so part of the job of a small local government is to give pushback to people or to government entities that actually do have more power. Okay, so there is that to be said, but resistance is part of our job. So if something is foisted upon us and there's a carrot and a stick associated with it, I think that it is the job of a board or any government to resist that and push back. So that's my take on it, and even if I'm not on a board, I'm going to push back on it because it's just the wrong thing to do. So that's what I've got.
I look up Executive Order 13848.
My only response is, Paul, if you could touch base maybe with Jason Robert or another school about the request for the pickleball over the winter time, facilities request.
Got it.
Pretty reasonable. Joe, did you have anything down there? Good, okay. Next on the agenda is correspondence. Paul, do you have any correspondence?
I don't have any correspondence.
Superintendent's report next.
Thank you. So today was the start of the return of teachers.